Growing up as the youngest of three children in the Vasquez family, I learned early on that the world didn't care about the smallest sibling. My older sister, Sophia, had the perfect blend of intellect and charm, while my brother, Diego, had a natural talent for business. Both of them had their paths set long before I could even understand what mine would be. But me? I was always the one expected to stay in the background, to fill in the gaps and just be useful. At family events, I cleaned up after dinners while they discussed mergers and acquisitions. During holiday gatherings, I worked in the kitchen while they sat with important investors talking about building the Vasquez empire. "You're the steady one, Maria," Mom would often say to friends, her voice laced with an undertone of affection and disappointment. "She's great at keeping things in order, but I don't think she has the drive for the bigger picture." The Vasquez family business was built on the back of my grandfather's food delivery service. From humble beginnings, they expanded into a multi-million-dollar logistics and transport company, now dominating the Southeast region with over 20 locations. Everyone assumed I'd be content working behind the scenes in operations, managing schedules or answering calls. I always did what was expected, until I didn't. What they didn't know, however, was that I had been working on something entirely different for years. While they saw me as the dutiful daughter who followed orders, I had quietly built an empire of my own. I had started investing in tech startups when I was 17. By the time I graduated from college, I had already exited my first business, an online platform for small-scale manufacturing, for $3.5 million. By the time I was 26, I had expanded into real estate, acquiring properties across multiple states. My investments were now worth over $50 million. But to my family, I was still Maria, the girl who kept the office organized while they ran the real business. Before I continue, let me ask you, how many of us have ever felt overlooked or underestimated? How many of us have quietly worked behind the scenes, only for the world to realize much later that we've been in control all along? If you're someone who knows what it's like to have your contributions dismissed, like this video, subscribe to the channel for more stories like this one, and share it with anyone who needs a reminder of the power that can lie in silence. Don't forget to comment your thoughts. Have you ever had a moment like this in your own life? I'd love to hear your experiences. The turning point came during a quarterly family meeting last month. Diego had called everyone together to discuss his plans for the company's next big expansion. The meeting was scheduled in our flagship office in downtown Atlanta, a sleek building my family had bought 5 years ago, but it didn't feel like a place I belonged. "This is the future of Vasquez Transport," Diego announced, adjusting his custom-made tie as he pulled up the latest projections. "We're looking at a $4.2 million investment to expand into 2 new states, and we're projected to increase revenue by 25% within the next year." The room was buzzing. Sophia, with her background in law, was already flipping through documents, making sure everything was in order. Meanwhile, Diego, the one who had always been groomed to take the reins of the business, was the one speaking confidently about expansion, looking every bit the CEO in his $500 suit. I sat in the corner, as usual, quietly observing. Technically, I was there because I held a small share of the company, which had been given to me when we incorporated, but it didn't mean anything in the grand scheme of things. My family thought I was just there for the ride. They didn't realize that my small share of stock had grown considerably over the years, thanks to some careful financial maneuvering, shell companies, and private investments I had made over the course of several years. Mom, as always, presided over the meeting with her stoic grace, looking every bit the matriarch she had been for decades. Her gold jewelry gleamed under the office lights. "This expansion will cement the Vasquez legacy," she declared, her eyes shining with pride. "This is our moment. We'll finally be the ones competing with the big players." Diego was already pulling up the numbers on the projection screen. "We've got all the logistics lined up, real estate contracts, suppliers, and the equipment needed. We just need to pull the trigger." I had learned long ago not to speak up at these meetings. After all, I wasn't involved in their day-to-day operations, and my knowledge of the logistics business was limited compared to theirs. So, I stayed quiet. But as the meeting progressed, something about the expansion plan didn't sit right with me. I knew that their financial projections were based on assumptions, not on solid market data. I had worked in tech for long enough to spot holes in plans like this. Have you considered market saturation in these new states? I asked, my voice calm, but my question cutting through the conversation like a sharp knife. The room immediately fell silent. Diego shot me a quick glance, barely hiding his irritation. Sophia looked over her glasses, raising an eyebrow. Maria, this isn't really your area of expertise, she said, her voice dripping with condescension. But I wasn't backing down. No, but I'd like to know how you're ensuring demand will meet supply. Are you factoring in competitor movements? Have you mapped out the market size per region? Diego exhaled slowly, clearly frustrated. Maria, we've done the research. We have everything under control. This is business, not making things pretty. Sophia chimed in. We don't need your input. You've never been a part of the business side of things. You don't understand these kinds of numbers. I smiled thinly and leaned back in my chair. I'd heard it all before. From the time I was little, I'd been dismissed in favor of my siblings. To them, I was just the responsible one, the one who made sure things ran smoothly while they focused on real business. But the truth was, I had been building something entirely different, a business empire of my own. And what they didn't know was that I was not just a minor shareholder anymore. I had been acquiring more and more shares of Vasquez Transport, carefully, quietly, and behind the scenes. Now, I want to ask you, have you ever been underestimated in your life? Maybe you've been passed over for a promotion or told that your dreams were too big. Maybe like me, you've worked quietly in the shadows, building something bigger than anyone could see. If this resonates with you, don't keep it to yourself. Like this video, subscribe to the channel for more powerful stories like this one, and share it with anyone who needs a reminder of the power that can lie in silence. Don't forget to comment your thoughts. Have you ever had a moment like this in your own life? I'd love to hear your experiences. The family meeting continued without me, but the tension was palpable. My brothers and sister had quickly dismissed my questions and turned their attention back to their projections and expansion plans. But the seed had been planted. They couldn't stop thinking about what I had said. Later that evening, I returned to my apartment, the one they all assumed I was barely able to afford on my waitress salary. The truth is, I owned the building. The rents I collected from tenants covered all my living expenses and then some. I didn't just work in the restaurant industry. I had become a silent investor in multiple businesses, quietly securing my own future, while my family focused on what they thought was their legacy. I spent the evening in front of my computer reviewing the latest financial reports from my portfolio. It was all part of my quiet, calculated strategy. By the time I was 27, I had accumulated over $50 million in investments across real estate, tech startups, and of course, Vasquez Transport, the business I'd quietly funded for years without anyone knowing. My attention shifted to the most recent acquisition I'd made, a 75% stake in Vasquez Transport, the final piece of my puzzle. I had started acquiring shares when I was 23, buying a few here and there unnoticed. Over the years, I had accumulated a controlling interest, a fact my family had been blissfully ignorant of. The Vasquez legacy they spoke of so often, it was mine, but they didn't know that yet. The next morning, I dressed in my usual waitress uniform, which my family thought was a humble costume to mask my financial struggles. They had no idea that under the fabric, I was the one in control. I drove to the flagship office early that morning. It was a quiet Sunday, so the usual hustle and bustle of the office was minimal. As I walked through the doors, I passed by my brothers and Sophia, who were already deep in conversation about their next expansion project. I made my way to the break room and poured myself a coffee. A few employees were there making their morning rounds, but I blended in like I always did. To them, I was just Maria, the waitress, nothing more, nothing less. A few hours later, I received an unexpected call from my lawyer, Daniel. He confirmed that everything was set for the meeting we had scheduled with the family later that afternoon. It was time for them to learn who really controlled the company. The call ended and I glanced at my watch. My brothers and Sophia were going to need to be in the conference room in 30 minutes. I had a different agenda planned. When the time came, I walked into the conference room as they were finishing up their latest plans for the expansion. Their conversation died down when they saw me enter. Sophia immediately raised an eyebrow and Diego's face turned red with irritation. But they didn't know what was coming. "Maria, what's going on?" Diego asked, trying to mask his frustration. I smiled slightly, then pulled out a set of documents from my bag and set them on the table. "We need to talk about the future of Vasquez Transport," I said, my voice calm, but with an edge of authority that made the air in the room feel thicker. Sophia narrowed her eyes. "Maria, we're in the middle of a discussion here. This is business, real business. You don't need to be involved right now." I leaned forward slightly, placing the documents on the table in front of them. The first document I pulled out was the company's ownership structure, a legal breakdown of how Vasquez Transport was actually owned. My family's jaws dropped when they saw it. They'd assumed I was a minor shareholder, just a part of the company. What they didn't know was that I owned 75% of the company now and had for years. "Maria, this can't be right," Diego stammered as he looked over the papers. His disbelief was evident. He had never been great at understanding the finer details of business ownership. For him, as long as the money was rolling in, that was all that mattered. I took a deep breath before answering. "You've all been running Vasquez Transport for years, thinking you were the sole decision makers, but you've never realized that I'm the one who's been funding you." Sophia, always the sharp one, looked up from the documents, her gaze sharp. You've been secretly investing in this business?" "More than that," I replied. "I've been funding every expansion project, every major purchase, and every piece of capital you've used for years. The renovations, the new fleet, my investments." The room went silent. It wasn't just the shock of the financial revelation, it was the realization that everything they had been doing had been supported by me from the shadows. Kevin's voice cracked slightly. "Why didn't you ever say anything? Why let us operate like this?" I smiled. "Because I wanted to see how you would handle it without me. I wanted you to build something real, and you did." Sophia, the ever-pragmatic one, sat back in her chair, taking it all in. "So what now? Are you taking over?" I could see the fear and confusion in their eyes, but I wasn't here to take control. I was here to claim my rightful place. "I'm not here to take over," I said firmly. "You've all done an incredible job managing operations, but now we move to the next phase. I'm ready to approve the $4.2 million expansion, but I'll need to be included in all future strategic meetings, and I want quarterly updates on the progress. No more decisions made without me." They were stunned, and I could see the realization dawning on them. They were no longer the sole players in this game. The dynamics had shifted. But it wasn't about me asserting power, it was about the reality that the company they thought was their legacy had already become part of mine. The room remained silent for several long moments after I laid out my terms. Diego looked like he might faint. Sophia, ever the lawyer, was processing the legal ramifications, trying to figure out how to reconcile what I was saying with the reality they had lived in for years. Kevin, the most pragmatic of us all, seemed to be trying to piece everything together, but the realization was clearly overwhelming. They all expected me to step away, to allow them to continue with their vision for the business. But the truth was, the Vasquez legacy was no longer just theirs. It was mine too. and I wasn't going to let anyone forget that. "I don't understand," Diego finally spoke, his voice shaking. "How could you have done all this without us knowing? We've been making decisions based on what we thought was best for the company, and you've been the one pulling the strings the entire time." I exhaled slowly, leaning back in my chair. "The problem is, Diego, you've always been good at running operations, but you've never understood the full picture. You've made assumptions, and you've been comfortable with the idea that I was just the housekeeper, the one who cleaned up, made sure everything was running smoothly. You never saw what was behind the scenes." Sophia's eyes narrowed. "You could have stopped any of us from making any decision at any point," she said, her voice steady but with an edge of disbelief. "Exactly, but I didn't," I replied calmly, "because you were doing it right. The company was growing under your leadership, and despite everything you thought, I didn't need to be in the spotlight. My success was never about fame or recognition. It was about securing our future, ensuring that we could expand, and making sure that the Vasquez name would live on, even if I was behind the curtain." There was a brief silence, and then Kevin, who had been unusually quiet, spoke up. "But why now? Why reveal all of this to us now when we've been building this business without knowing you've had the majority share for 4 years? Why not let us keep doing what we've been doing?" I looked at each of them carefully, making sure they understood. Because the expansion you're talking about, it's not just a growth opportunity anymore. It's a fundamental shift, a shift that requires careful, coordinated decisions. If we're going to take this company to the next level, it's going to take more than just day-to-day management. It's going to take strategic direction. I've been in the shadows for too long, and now I'm stepping forward because I know what needs to be done for us to thrive in this next phase. Kevin still seemed rattled. "I don't know. This feels like we're suddenly playing in a league we never expected to be in." "Exactly," I said, leaning forward. "And that's why you need me involved now. This isn't just about making more money. It's about redefining who we are as a company. We need to make smart, long-term decisions, ones that will ensure that Vasquez Transport isn't just a regional leader, but a national one. And that means we need to rethink how we approach things." Sophia remained silent, processing everything I'd said. But she wasn't giving up that easily. "And what about control? You own 75% of the company. You could fire us, change the direction of the business without us even having a say. How can we trust you?" The question was fair. I understood the fear, but this was family, and the business I was building wasn't about undermining anyone. Trust is built on transparency. I didn't step forward earlier because I wanted you to succeed on your own. I wanted you to prove that you could take this company to the next level, and you've done that. But I can't sit in the background anymore. We need to be working together, not in separate corners. There was a pause as everyone in the room took a moment to absorb the shift. Kevin rubbed his forehead as if trying to clear the fog in his mind. Then he looked up at me, his expression still one of confusion, but slowly being replaced by cautious understanding. "You're not taking over. You're not trying to replace us. You just want to be a part of it, the way we never saw you before." I nodded slowly. "Exactly. I never wanted to take your roles. You're the ones who've built this business into what it is today. But the future we're building requires all of us, together. It's time for us to stop playing small." Diego finally spoke again, though his voice was quieter this time. "I guess I've always been so focused on what I thought was the future. I never really looked at the bigger picture. But now I see what you mean. We're not just a family business anymore. We're a real company, one that can make a huge impact." Sophia gave a small nod of agreement. "The expansion plans are solid. We can make it work. We just need to rethink the strategy and integrate our efforts." I smiled, feeling the weight of the situation begin to shift. "That's exactly right.
and together we can make it happen. But I need you all to understand, my voice will be part of every major decision going forward. And I'm not just here to approve investments. I'll be at the table during strategy sessions when we're talking about mergers, new acquisitions, and market positioning.
There was no immediate response, but the energy in the room had completely shifted. Instead of defensive posturing and skepticism, there was now a genuine willingness to listen. They were beginning to realize that the path forward would be different than they had expected, but it was still one they could walk together. The next hour was a blur. We discussed logistics, new opportunities for expansion, and what it would take to create a more cohesive, integrated management structure. I didn't have all the answers yet, but I had a vision. And that vision included all of us working in tandem, each of us bringing our strengths to the table. Before I continue, I want to ask, have you ever been in a position where you've been overlooked or underestimated? A time when others thought they knew better, only for you to show them that you were the one who had the true power all along? If this resonates with you, like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with someone who's been in the shadows, quietly building their success. Don't forget to comment below with your own stories of proving others wrong and showing what you're truly capable of. I'd love to hear your thoughts. The weeks that followed were nothing short of transformative. The dynamic between my family and me had fundamentally shifted. No longer was I just the background player, the one who kept the operations running while everyone else made the decisions. Now, I was a partner, a key voice in every major conversation, and the weight of my influence began to sink in for them. It wasn't an easy adjustment. There were moments of tension, especially in the beginning. Diego had a hard time accepting that his authority was no longer uncontested, and Sophia, though pragmatic, struggled with the idea of someone else in the driver's seat of the company they had spent their lives building. But the truth was, I wasn't here to replace them. I was here to elevate what we had created, together. We worked through the details of the expansion. I insisted on more than just financial projections. I demanded a deeper analysis of market trends, competitor movements, and the long-term sustainability of the plan. My brothers and sister were taken aback at first by how involved I wanted to be. They had always seen their roles as the decision makers, but now they began to see that what I brought to the table was a perspective they hadn't been able to see for themselves, a broader vision. By the time we had secured the necessary investments and greenlighted the expansion, the whole company had shifted. We weren't just building on the family legacy anymore. We were creating something far greater, a business that would stand the test of time and become a name people will trust across the nation. There were still the occasional growing pains as we integrated our new business strategies. There were meetings where old wounds reopened, where my brothers would chafe against my involvement in certain decisions. But every time those moments occurred, I reminded them, we are stronger together. The breakthrough came one afternoon when we were reviewing the first quarter reports, post-expansion. The numbers were better than expected, and our competitors were beginning to take notice. Sophia, who had always been skeptical of my quiet approach, turned to me with a rare look of admiration. She said, "I have to admit, I didn't think we'd be here this quickly," she said, her voice tinged with a newfound respect. "I thought your approach was too slow, but it turns out you were right. You really do see the big picture." I smiled, but I wasn't here for praise. It's not about being right, it's about making sure we all succeed together. None of us would be where we are without the work we've put in over the years. That's the only reason we're here. Diego, ever the pragmatist, raised his coffee cup. "You've done something none of us could have ever imagined. You turned us into a real company, not just a family business." I nodded, but deep down, I knew it wasn't just about the company. It was about the relationships that had been transformed, about earning my place at the table, not just in terms of business, but in my family's eyes. And as the weeks passed, that respect only grew. My family no longer dismissed me. They understood my worth, and I understood theirs. We had a new sense of partnership, of shared vision. We still had our differences, of course. We always would. But now, our bond as a family and as a business team was stronger than ever.
A month later, as we sat around the table reviewing our latest annual growth projections, I realized just how much things had changed. The roles had shifted, yes, but more importantly, my family had begun to see the value of quiet success. They had come to understand that the most powerful moves weren't always the loudest ones. "I'll handle the press conference tomorrow," I said, flipping through the media kits. "We'll announce the new expansion to the public." Sophia gave a slight nod. "You know, I've never really thought about how much control you've had in the background. I was too focused on my own vision." Kevin, who had been silent for most of the meeting, finally spoke up. "You've always had the best strategy, we just didn't see it until now." I didn't respond immediately. Instead, I looked at my family, my partners, knowing that this moment was exactly what I had worked so hard for. The respect was there now, but more than that, the understanding was there. We'd had come full circle. What started as my quiet strategic work in the shadows had turned into a collective effort that would define the future of our business for years to come. But as we wrapped up the meeting and began filing out of the room, I couldn't help but smile inwardly. I had already known how the story would end. The real power was never in the title or the public recognition. It was in the ability to create something, to make an impact, and to quietly lead from the background without the need for validation. That's the true power after all, the one no one sees coming. As I left the office, I took a final look at the skyline outside, the same view I'd seen so many times before from a different perspective. This time, though, it felt different. The future was ours, and we had built it together. And tomorrow, I'd put on my Waitress uniform again, just as I always had. Because at the end of the day, success isn't about the title you hold, but the work you put in. I had built the future of the Vasquez business from behind the scenes, and I had made sure everyone had a place at the table. Now, it was time to keep building, quietly but steadily. If you've been underestimated, dismissed, or overlooked, this is for you. The truth is, real success isn't about what people see. It's about the work you do when no one's watching. Have you ever quietly built something that changed everything? Maybe it was your business, your career, or your personal growth. Like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with someone who's been in the shadows, quietly building their success. Don't forget to comment below with your own stories of proving others wrong and showing what you're truly capable of. I'd love to hear your thoughts.